Hello, everybody.
Hello, folks. We're
Hey,
examining
guys.
Boston Brewing Company's Samuel Adams Boston Lager. And tonight, for the hundreds of thousands of people around the world watching, it's myself, Ronald or Jay from Louisiana, Paul from Texas, Jeff Brister from Mississippi, Brandon Burrell from Mississippi, Charles Lewis from Indiana, John Sharon from Indiana, Eric Fraunfelter from Massachusetts, and maybe even some more people joining, hopefully very soon. Now, anybody want to give us the background on Samuel Adams Boston Lager?
I believe what happened with Boston Lager was I forget when it was. I think it was 1978 or 9. Jimmy Carter had signed a law that said home brewing is now legal. So there are a lot of different people around that time that were getting some beers together. And Jim Koch was cleaning out his grandfather's attic and found a chest that had a recipe for this particular beer in there. And he decided that, no, it's legal to start brewing beer now. Why not try it? So he really liked the product. And then what he ended up doing was he went around to a couple of different local bars around in Boston to see if they wanted to start buying that beer from him. And a lot of the bars did, and then this thing started taking off, and that's where you get Sam Adams now.
Right, and it's sort of like, I know they say 84, but I think it really came on the market in 85, if I remember reading correctly.
Well, he says he found the recipe in 1984 in the attic. That's what it says in the label.
Oh, okay, so I was right then. It hit the market in 85. It's 4.9% alcohol. It's 30 international bitterness units. It's kind of heavy with 176 calories. It's not,
Right.
not made to be a diet. It kind of set off a firestorm. I never tried it until 1996 now. Some people say they changed the recipe.
Oh, sorry. That's my bottle opener.
Sam Adams, baby. Patriotic.
Oh,
LSU. Not gonna stop. This is it. Alright. That's it.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, though, wasn't it at one time that to be a craft brewer you can only do so many barrels of beer a year, and didn't he exceed that?
Yeah, he's
And then raised the limit on how many barrels of beer
They were about to exceed it.
craft brewer.
Yeah, they were about to exceed it, so the Brewers Association just raised the arbitrary limit.
Yeah.
In other words, what was considered a craft beer was it had to be produced within a certain arbitrary number, which I never could understand why it would have to be some arbitrary number. But anyway, it did set off a firestorm, and it became so popular, and I started drinking it in 1996 when I started my beer drinking experiment. And
Odyssey.
Odyssey, yeah. And some people have commented to me on Facebook. They say, well, they ruined this beer. It's changed a lot since it came out in the 80s. It was so much better then. And I said, well, I can't really comment because I've only started drinking, I've only been drinking it for 18 years. And to me, it's never changed. I don't know. Y'all might have noticed a change. I haven't noticed any change myself.
Absolutely
I think
not.
it's consistent to the way it was back then. I don't see much of a change in it.
Who on here has been drinking it the longest? Like who can say they've been drinking it since the 80s or whatever? Anybody?
I've probably been drinking it since the early 90s when I first had mine.
Yeah, 96 for me. Charles?
Oh, probably around the same time.
Okay. I didn't get much head in this tulip glass. I probably didn't use the right glass, but
I didn't get much head in the Sam Adams glass.
I got plenty.
Look at that thing.
whoa, look at
That's almost gone at this point.
Paul's got the
I got a
right.
beautiful, creamy,
It's a great
foamy,
color, though.
cream-colored head. It was beautiful.
Well, there, guys.
It reminds me of that Worthington's IPA, that Red Shield or whatever.
Oh, look at that.
Good beer.
That stuff's awesome. Okay, well let's go with the aroma on this item here.
Smell a lot of big floral in it. A lot of citrus.
I'm getting something. I always get something odd, and I can't describe it. It's almost like,
You can smell the hops.
Oh yeah.
yeah, and it's almost like, I don't know if it's like musty bread crust or
Yeah.
Syrupy caramel. I don't know. I know I'm saying the wrong thing, but it has a distinctive aroma that I don't get in other beers.
Yeah, it definitely has a distinctive toffee caramel type sweetness, and maybe there's some of that, a little bit of like a brown bread crust in there as well.
Yeah, it's pleasant though. I mean, it's really
Very clean.
Yes.
Anybody else want to add some comments to the aroma?
Like I said before, I smell some hops. It smells citrusy with a little bit of floral background in it. It smells real good though.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I bought a 12-pack for $13.97. It was the fall variety pack, so that was
That's a pretty good price.
Yeah. Let's go with the flavor, I guess. Y'all ready to, or you want to? What's the color?
Yeah.
Copper?
I'm always ready to drink.
It's like a
Very
light
copper.
copper.
Yep.
Not
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Light
quite
copper.
hazy. It's a little see-through. It's not filtered too much, but it's filtered a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's almost like a light mahogany type color.
Mahogany.
Yeah, light mahogany, very light.
I'd say amber.
Light, very light mahogany. A little bit more than a copper color.
I'd say amber is the best description.
Yeah,
Okay,
amber.
I'll go
Dark,
along with
dark
that.
amber.
I'll go along with that amber.
All right.
All right.
I'm always ready for the taste, so let's taste.
Let's
Sure.
drink it.
Bang.
Bang.
Oh boy. It
Yes.
has very citrusy hops.
Yep.
Yeah. It hits you right up front.
You get a mix between that citrusy hop you're just talking about and a caramel toffee sweetness instantly.
Yeah.
But all this flavor here is very, very light flavor. So all of that we're talking about, in my opinion, is very, very light in the flavor profile.
And what's interesting is that you're right. It's up front. It's really, I don't want to say it's harsh, but it's strong. But it goes down. It goes down nice. Like it's.
It finishes a little short and dry.
Yeah,
It's a
so
little
it's a nice-
malty side, kind of. It almost has kind of like a malt finish.
You definitely
That's
get
like malts on the back end. I think is what's making it the dryness on it.
What is it?
The malts on the back end.
Yes.
the dryness, and you
Oh, yeah.
definitely getting
Very
the full
well
30.
balanced.
You're definitely getting the full 30 international bitterness units.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you are.
Hey, Paul, remember Ron Cohn? He used to talk about how bad Boston Lager was back in '96. He said, "Oh, I hate that beer. That stuff's nasty." But I think it was so shocking at that time
Right.
to him that it was just.
Well, that's the thing. It's like we've talked about, Jay. Like, the first time you drink a different kind of a style of beer other than the American lager you're used to, or we're used to here, it definitely hits you. I mean, it's like you don't know what to make of it. I mean, that's how I was the first few times I had this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So I can understand why you might think that at first.
yeah, it's like watching Eraserhead. You just don't know what to. But
Exactly.
Well,
but
if you think about it, though, Jay, there wasn't a beer like this back in the early '90s.
not too many. There were a few, but not too many.
But not
And they
one.
weren't not widely available. No.
Yeah,
Not
that's what I'm saying. There wasn't one widely available like this was back then.
Yeah, you had.
I remember watching, I think it was Better Beer Authority, and they were examining this beer, and a couple of the guys on the panels were talking about, well, this Boston Lager, it just tastes like a normal average American beer, and I don't understand how anybody could find this to be tasting like Budweiser or Miller or Coors and any kind of pale lager like
No.
that at all.
No, not at all. And what this reminds me of, back in my homebrew days, is when you took a bunch of pale malt, and then you started throwing crystal to it, and you started mixing up the hops. But this is a better version of what you can make at home, but it's still got that same profile.
Mm-hmm. Like a higher quality version of a homebrew.
You got it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You use a two-row pale malt blend, right? Isn't that their base?
Yes.
Yep.
And I think they have some kind of special yeast that is, Samuel Adams Lager yeast. It's their specialty yeast.
Oh, wow. They have their own yeast that they make.
Well,
They infect their own beer with their own yeast.
Samuel Adams is a beer that people love to rip on, man. It's like I think people like to rip on this beer almost as much as Budweiser these days. It's so
I think-
It's so fashionable to talk about how
You know why?
I used to like that stuff, but I've grown up.
That's why, because it's been around too long. That's exactly why.
Well, the thing about it is, though, I mean, this is a beer that's available like any other adjunct lager. I mean, you think this beer's been around a long time and it's on the shelves
Look at that. Look
like
at
every other thing. And the thing about it is, though, I mean,
It's not. It's definitely not a microbrewery at this point.
Yeah,
Right.
look at all that lacing. What were you saying, John? John was saying something. Look at all that lacing. But John, go ahead and finish that thought.
I'm not hearing him.
We can't hear John. Well,
John,
what I was gonna say, one of the things I was gonna say was, it's. I think to some people's point, it's a little hard to classify this as Sam Adams as craft beer because, well, number one, they got this commercial going out now. Like, how many different kinds of beers do you think Sam Adams brews every year? And they talk about, over 60 kinds of beers, that seems like a lot for a craft brewery per se. But it also, if you look on the bottles, they also say they are made not only in Boston but in Cincinnati and in a place in Pennsylvania. So they got a large production that helps make this beer.
They bought Schaefer Brewery years ago to up their production.
yeah, and they caught a lot of heat from that because people said, you're selling out to the big guys. Well, what were they supposed to do? They could not keep up with the demand. I mean, it's kind of crazy, huh?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I don't care who makes it. If they follow the recipe right, I don't see why they wouldn't do it right. I don't know if it's still contract brewed to some extent. I heard that Miller still does some. I don't care personally if they do. Sam Adams never wanted to talk about it. It's understandable because then people would rip on him and say, you're a bunch of fakes,
Yeah.
But now, let me bring this point up. It's true. Sam Adams does sometimes put out some not so great beers because they're always putting out, excuse me, they're like always putting out something new, something new. And so they have some dogs. But I would say most of what they have is not a dog, And this is their original, and their original might just be their greatest and best and hasn't been topped. What do you think about that statement?
I find, and to your point there, what you were just saying there, I seem to find him at least because every single bar has the Boston Lager, and they have a lot of the seasonals. I find that the seasonals are very inconsistent year to year. I keep finding that the summer ale is tasting more and more different every year I try it.
Yeah, and one year, about 3 years ago, the Oktoberfest tasted salty.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I know this should not have salt in it. Probably.
We'll find out next week on that one.
No, I had some and it wasn't salty. Hello. No, it's got.
Well, cheers, everybody. Cheers to the hometown brew
I
of
think
my
I would
area.
take the Noble Bills over Boston Lager just slightly as the best one that I've had from them. I like the Noble Pills a lot.
Yeah, that Boston.
I haven't had enough of their different other ones to know, honestly. I've had a few, but
Oh yeah, that was years ago.
They do a lot of. Sam Adams does a lot of different variety packs
right.
where they have only beers that you can buy. You can't buy the beers in single packs. You can only buy them in the variety packs. Like I think they had like a hazelnut brown and old Fezziwigs or something like that, where you can only get those in variety packs, and that's how they keep brewing beer after beer after beer, and that's how they get people to want to go and buy their beer. It's like it's only exclusive to a 12-pack, so you better buy a 12-pack.
Right.
Now,
I just keep doing the lacing. The lacing on this just amazing. Look at this.
yeah, I'm not getting a lot. I guess your glass has got more
Surface.
Yeah, surface. It might be a little more rumple because mine isn't getting a whole lot. Don't y'all think that the Samuel Adams Boston Ale is a really nice one too? You don't see it too much.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I haven't had that.
I love that thing, man.
hey, Jay.
Yeah,
Hey, Scott White wants to jump in.
let him jump in. I'm really getting that citrus right now. It's almost like a lemony citrus from
I
those.
would agree.
got it.
I think a lot of Sam Adams beers have that kind of characteristic to them as well. They all have that same kind of a malt profile in the background.
Now Scott has all these multiple accounts, so I invited him. Okay.
He just sent me a text.
Tell him that I already invited him.
Yeah.
I get people that get on my nerve. They don't get on my nerves. They get on my case. Like they'll say, "Why didn't you talk to me on Facebook?" And I was talking to you on Google. I say, "Look, you've got a Google persona. You've got a Facebook persona. You got all these different nicknames. I don't know who Penguin Bunny is and Madcap Jester and all these. They don't use like consistent names. I cannot keep up with all these people. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be ugly, but it's like mind-boggling. So Scott White is Scott White, and then he's also Scott White, and then they say I gotta send through an email. I'm not trying to. I don't know how to access it. I don't know what to do. I feel helpless. Tell him to send me a link, and I'll send. But anyway,
highly carbonated. Well, at least in the etched glass.
You will burn like mad. But I think Sam Adams is good because it tastes good, and secondly, the price is good. They don't charge these ridiculous prices that so many craft beer companies charge. I'm so tired of paying a fortune for craft beer, and then you drink it, and it's not even appreciably better. It's just barely better than this.
You could get a big bomber of Dogfish that you're going to pay between $14 and $16 for it. And it may not be a beer you even had before, so to pay that much money for a beer you don't really know going into it, you're going to have a good time drinking it, is kind of nerve-wracking to a certain extent.
Yeah. Now, I paid $10.49. I'm embarrassed to say this. $10.49 for an 11.2-ounce bottle of Destruce Black Albert. Now, that is outrageous, that price, but it was one of the best beers I ever had in my life. I got to admit that. But other times I'll pay a whole lot of money, like you're talking about, Eric, for craft beer, and they're just like, why didn't I just buy Red Hook or something?
Exactly.
Yep. That's one of the reasons why, if there's something I'm really curious about, I'm at a bar that has a lot of craft beer and they just happen to have it on draft, I'll like try a sample of it before I commit to even buying it. And I like being able to do that. I certainly, you can't do that if you go to the beer store, so you don't know what you're getting.
Oh, and I've gotten hosed so many times. Oh, there's Scott White. Ah.
Hola.
Scott, I was trying to get you on here for the last 30 minutes. Okay, Scott, we were trying to get you on here now. I don't think we were trying to ignore you now. All right, now Scott's
I just got home not too long ago anyway.
Now, Scott is going to give us, we were talking about, let me give you some background, Scott. We were drinking Samuel Adams Boston Lager. We are all bragging on it. We all like it, I think. Am I speaking correctly?
Absolutely.
We're all bragging on
Absolutely.
it. You want to give us some thoughts on it? What is your opinion about Samuel Adams Boston Lager?
Well, I do like that, when you sat there and posted this up, you actually put out the dates. I mean, the original dates when they won at the Great American Beer Festival, especially the first 4 years running, I honestly think it's my favorite lager to begin with here in the United States. I mean, if it's a United States brewed lager, American craft beer made, this is my favorite. But on the other hand, I mean, since that time that they've won consistently, I mean, it's been here, there. Their other brands have won so many other awards. But I think people have just gotten, used to the fact that we now have, like, going on, 23, 24, 2,500 breweries. And there's just so many more choices out there to make nowadays than to stick with one, unless you latch on to something and it's your go-to.
Yeah. Now, we were also talking about how it's fashionable these days for people to rip on Boston Lager, and they'll say, "Oh, I used to like that, but I've grown up now, and I don't really care for it now. It's such a pedestrian beer." I really don't like that attitude.
Now that you said that, I think there are good points to take from that. I think there are a lot of people, and it wasn't by design. It was not by design, but I think there are a lot of people that talk about this beer as this is a really good beer if you're a BMC, Bud Miller Coors drinker, and you want to get into more interesting kinds of beers and want to understand a little bit more about what do some hops taste like? What do some malts taste like? What does a little bit of a yeast character do to a beer? I think a lot of people choose this one, and then they're able to branch out from that way. But there's no reason why you grow, you adapt, and you change, and then you start ripping on the fact that, oh, I used to like that crap, and now I don't anymore. There's no reason to say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good beer. I mean, it's not like it just has to be a gateway beer. It's just on its face a really delicious beer. And if I had to drink Boston Lager every day, I would have no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I can't speak for anybody else, but I think it's really a dynamite beer, personally.
Absolutely.
And it's certified kosher if you need to know that.
That's right.
But
Kosher.
I actually do drink this beer every day. It's my starter beer of the evening, and then I move on to more heavier things.
yeah. You know, my whole point of that is, why does it have to be like this is mutually exclusive thing? Like, if I like this, then I can't like that, and if I like that, I can't like that. Well, why can't you just like whatever you want to like? And
Right.
why does there have to be some kind of like contest? I don't know.
Because the beer world that we live in and that we are a part of here, not us particularly, but the beer world that we're in, we think that we got to fit into certain molds, and, you know, everybody else likes Bourbon County Stout, so if we don't like it, we're going to be, you know, outcasted and thrown to the side because of our opinions of beer, for God's sakes.
You know, it goes back to, you got one day the guy's sitting there in the bar and he's drinking a Natty Light. He's in the fraternity, and then he got him a Miller Lite, and then he got him a Boston Lager. Oh, I'm done with all that other stuff. You know what I mean? This is a good beer.
Yeah.
This is just
But at the time, he was enjoying Natural Light because he thought it was good, even though it must have been good if he drank it.
I mean, you know what? If you like it, drink it. I don't care what the name is, right?
Well, I mean, isn't that the true meaning for this beer, because of the fact that Jim had originally made it because you couldn't get rich, flavorful lagers here in the United States like he could when he visited Germany. So,
You could get them, but it was difficult.
Right, you couldn't get, like, the imports. I mean, you had the risk of them going bad and, you know, shipping and whatnot, and just sitting on the shelves or out in the light, because people didn't look at it, critique it like we do nowadays.
I can remember back in the.
Okay, go on.
Oh. But I think
Everybody hear me?
Yeah, you bugged out for a second. You can remember back in what?
No, I can remember back in the 80s when you wanted a craft beer, that you had to go to the local big liquor barn to get beer. You got a case of beer called Beers Around the World. That was the only way you get a craft beer back in, because there wasn't no craft beer.
Yeah, I can't really comment because I didn't start doing this until '96. And when I went into this experiment, there was a whole abundance of craft beer by 1996, so there was no shortage then. It was just like every time I would go beer shopping, I would just find this like amazing amount of beers, and some of those companies are out of business today. So I guess I got into the game rather late. You would have to talk to people that were doing this drinking thing back in the 60s and 70s, like, you know, Dave Coulter. He would know about what was going down back then, you know.
Exactly.
I just wasn't part of that culture. I mean, I knew about it, but what I knew about it was so minimal that it's not even worth talking about. Anyway, I'm going to give my final thought, and then I'm going to go down the line. Everybody give their final thoughts on Samuel Adams Boston Lager. My final thought is that I think it was very important that he did this beer.
Oh, no.
Dave, DZ and Dave is coming in late in the game. Okay, but we're going to let him talk, though, because we're not a bunch of ugly people.
We're not uppity.
Why do all these surveys... Hold on. I'm going to let it ring. I know it's one of those surveys. Ask me who I'm voting for. Okay, I think it's a dynamite beer, and I got no problem. I'm glad he invented the beer, or developed the beer, I should say.
His family did, yes.
Yeah, I'm glad he came up with this beer. I like it. I'm a fan of it, and I got a lot of respect for it. So you're never going to hear me ripping on Samuel Adams Boston Lager. I can assure you of that.
Same here.
Down the line, Brandon.
I have to say, I agree with you on that one. You're never going to be ripped on this beer. It's a solid beer. It's a well-made beer. One of those. It's just you find that a lot of bars and stuff like that, you can get it on draft or on bottles, different places. So it's an easy beer to find. It's solid for the price. Can't really go wrong with it, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's a winner. You're right, Brandon. Charles.
I think it's a good. It's not definitely not a heavy beer. It's a little thin, but at the same time, it's got good hops, good malt, good crystal malt to it. Finish is good. You can see the tree line and the lacing there.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Excellent. Easy on me, Dave. We missed you, but we were bragging on Samuel Adams Boston Lager. But all we basically said was we really like it and we enjoy drinking it and we have a lot of respect for it. But that doesn't mean you have to hold to that line. We don't have a party line here. What do you say about it? What do you say about it, Diamond Dave?
This picture is frozen.
Oh, he must be having some connection.
John's next.
Okay, well, Eric's next, so we'll get back to
All
him.
right, I'm next. Well, this is, I don't know if this was made in Ohio or in Pennsylvania, but I'm going to call it, this one was my hometown beer, and I play no favorite of the hometown beer, but it is really good. I think Charles was hitting it on the head there where it's you get all the good flavors that you can get from really well put together ingredients in a recipe and in a way that the average Joe person can get into this style of beer that wouldn't necessarily want to pick a beer because it looks like this and not like a Natty Light, but it's got a good price, got good solid base flavors, and it's practically everywhere, so you can't go wrong if you don't know what else to buy at the store. Absolutely not.
Excellent. John?
Well, I think this beer it's a very good beer. I'd recommend this beer to anybody that's wanting to move up from your Buds and your Miller Lights and stuff. It's a transitionary beer. It's an affordable beer. It's a consistent brewed beer, and I think that's what means a lot about a beer, especially a craft type beer. And I think the guy hit a home run with it, and I think it's an enjoyable beer.
Yep. Paul?
I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said, right? I mean, it's a very good beer. Recommend it to anybody who hasn't had it yet. As you can see, I already drank it all.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Scott?
It has some lacing on that glass, as you can see.
All right.
Scott, how does it pair with cigarettes?
Cigarettes, you could even go cigars. It's going to go with anything.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious. I don't smoke cigarettes, but I was just curious how it would pair with the cigarettes.
Apparently, this beer goes with. Apparently, the Boston Lager goes with 2 other Boston Lagers very well.
Oh yeah, it's made for sessioning, is what you're trying to say.
Absolutely.
Okay, Jeff.
Basically mirror what everybody else said. I hate to call it a transition beer because I do agree that it is a great beer on its own, but it is something you would want to give somebody like that's only drank Bud Light their whole life if they want to go into the craft beer scene. A little side note, I wanted to see if this is correct. I heard that the Boston Beer Company is the #1 selling American brewery now that InBev bought Budweiser. Is that true?
No.
No.
They're third, right?
Bigger than Pabst?
That's what I heard. Somebody told me that the other day.
I think they're third. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're third or fourth. Third, Sierra Nevada's fourth, right?
Yeah, that might
Second
be right.
largest craft beer company because Yuengling holds the top selling right now.
Yep.
Okay.
So the America's craft beer industry, they're the second. But to go on record, Jim was the first before Dick Yuengling to be called the first American craft beer billionaire.
Okay.
Right.
All right, that's fair. And I wouldn't really consider Yuengling a craft beer company myself. I consider a regional brewer. But
I agree with you, Jay, on that one.
Hey, wait a minute. now you could say that Coors Brewing is still an American company because Coors merged with Molson of Canada, but it's a 50-50 merger. In other words, Coors still is American. They're just merged with.
Aren't they owned by? Which one is it owned by? South Africa.
That's Miller.
SAB Miller.
But Coors merged with Molson in a 50-50 partnership. It was not. A lot of people thought that Molson bought Coors, but that was not the case. If you look at their corporate website, it clears it. All right, but anyway, that doesn't matter. But the point is, Boston Brewing Company is huge. They're making big money. A lot of what they put out is really good. Probably most of what they put out is really good.
And
Boston Lager is their best. And I'm going to end this by saying, John, Scott, if I show you this, don't laugh too much, but I bought this at CVS for real cheap.
Uh-oh.
There it is.
Because they were.
What is it?
Garcia E. Vega.
Oh, there you go.
You might make fun of me, but you know, it was like 80% off. So. And
Can't beat
I'll
a
say
deal,
one
right?
more thing, New Yorker White Owl. I mean, you can really.
What I got with Abraham Lincoln on it.
Now John Sharon's gonna spit in my face, but I don't care because I bought them for almost no money. Okay, all right.
What else? There you go.
I'm sorry.
All right. Anyway, I can't help it. They had a great sale. All right. Anyway, this was fun, and I think next week when we do the Samuel Adams Oktoberfest, it's going to be really exciting because I've been cheating and I've been drinking some already, and it's really good.
Pipe.
Y'all looking forward to the Oktoberfest beer?
Yes.
Yeah, looking forward to
I
it.
am because I will be at Cincinnati's Oktoberfest from Friday.
Ooh, I like that goblet.
Stein there, man.
Hey, Stein.
Scott, you ought to come to Burns, and they have a Stein half the size of your body right now in the store.
Yeah, they've got a 3-foot one. You can actually win one of those at Stein hoisting contests around the country.
That's a pretty sweet item. So thank you, folks, for watching this video production. And next week, it's Samuel Adams Oktoberfest.
Woo!
Woo! Guys, later.
For you tomorrow.
Cheers.